The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Job chapter 1, verse 21. What would you do if everything you loved disappeared in a single day? What would happen to your faith if your world collapsed without warning? Would you still trust God when life no longer made sense? This is the story of Job, a story not only about suffering, but about faith tested beyond imagination. Job lived in the land of Uz, a region east of Israel. The Bible describes him as blameless and upright, a man who feared God and turned away from evil. He was not a king, he was not a warrior, he was a faithful man, a husband, and a father, and God trusted him. Job's life was filled with blessing. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys. Servants filled his household, and his name was known throughout the East. He also had 10 children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. His home was full of laughter. Celebrations were common. Peace surrounded his life. But even in prosperity, Job remained humble before God. Every morning, he rose early and offered sacrifices for his children. He would say, "Perhaps my children have sinned in their hearts." Even when nothing was wrong, Job still sought God. Then the story shifts, away from earth. In heaven, the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And among them came Satan, the accuser. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth upon it." Then the Lord said, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and turns away from evil." But Satan replied, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not placed a hedge around him, and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he owns, and he will surely curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Very well, everything he has is in your power, but do not lay a hand on the man himself." And so, the test began. One ordinary day became the darkest day of Job's life. A messenger ran to Job and fell before him. The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were feeding nearby when the Sabaeans attacked. They carried them off and struck down the servants. "I alone have escaped to tell you." Before he finished speaking, another messenger arrived. "Fire fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I alone have escaped." Then another came running. "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and carried them away." And while he was still speaking, a 4th messenger arrived trembling. "Your sons and daughters were feasting in their brother's house when a mighty wind struck the corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are gone." In a single afternoon, Job lost his wealth, his servants, and all 10 of his children. What would you do in that moment? Would anger rise? Would faith disappear? Job stood up. He tore his robe. He shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground and worshipped. "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this, Job did not sin by blaming God. But the story was not finished. Again, the heavenly court gathered before the Lord, and Satan came again. The Lord said, "Have you considered my servant Job? He still maintains his integrity, even though you incited me against him without reason." Satan answered, "Skin for skin. A man will give all he has for his own life. Stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you." The Lord said, "He is in your hands, but you must spare his life." Then suffering reached Job's body. Painful sores covered him from head to foot. He sat among ashes, scraping his skin with broken pottery. People avoided him. Strength left him. Silence surrounded him. Even his wife, overwhelmed by grief, said, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job answered, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" 3 friends came to comfort him: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. When they saw him from a distance, they barely recognized him. They wept aloud and sat with him 7 days and 7 nights without speaking. Sometimes silence is the deepest compassion, but eventually words came. The friends believed suffering only came to the guilty. They said, "God is just, therefore you must have sinned." But Job knew his heart. He refused to confess a lie. He cried out in pain. He questioned. He struggled. Have you ever prayed honestly before God? Have you ever asked why? Then, after long silence, God answered, not in a whisper, but from a whirlwind. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Have you commanded the morning? Can you bind the stars or tame the great beasts?" Question after question revealed the vastness of creation. God did not explain suffering. He revealed his greatness. "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." He humbled himself before God. Faith is not trusting God because life is good. Faith is trusting God, even when life breaks your heart. So now, the question returns to you. If everything was taken away, would you still say, "Blessed be the name of the Lord"? But the story of Job is not locked in ancient history. It is a mirror held before every generation. Because today, many people are living a story that feels painfully familiar. Some wake up to unexpected loss. A job disappears without warning. A diagnosis changes everything. A relationship breaks apart. Dreams carefully built over years collapse in moments. And like Job, many ask the same question: why is this happening to me? We live in a world that celebrates success, but struggles to understand suffering. When life is good, faith feels easy. But when prayers seem unanswered, when silence replaces hope, faith becomes a choice, not a feeling. Job teaches us that faith is not the absence of questions. Faith is remaining standing, even when answers do not come. Today, people search for meaning in wealth, in status, in recognition, believing these things will protect them from pain. But Job reminds us that security was never found in possessions. Everything he owned disappeared, yet the most important thing remained: his relationship with God. And perhaps that is the hidden message of his story. Sometimes what is shaken in our lives reveals what cannot be shaken. Trials do not always come to destroy faith. Sometimes they come to reveal it. Maybe you are watching this today while carrying silent pain. Maybe you feel forgotten. Maybe you are waiting for restoration that has not yet arrived. The story of Job whispers a quiet truth. God is still present, even in seasons that make no sense. Your suffering is not the end of your story. Just as morning followed Job's longest night, hope can rise again where loss once lived. So when life feels uncertain, when the future seems unclear, remember the words spoken in the ashes. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And perhaps the greatest victory of Job was not the blessings he received at the end, but the faith he kept in the middle.